Question 50. What is the ideal position for your hands on the steering wheel, imagining the steering wheel as the hands of a clock? Answers: A. 10 and 2. B. 2. C. 11 and 1. D. 4 and 8. The answer is undefined. Explanation: keeping your hands firmly opposite each other on the wheel gives you the best chance of remaining in control if anything, such as a pothole, tries to wrench the wheel from your hand. Question 51. Descending a long downgrade, which of these will help you if you have brake difficulties? Answers: A. A turn going uphill. B. 4. C. An escape ramp. D. An open field. The answer is undefined. Explanation: if your brakes fail, any of these alternatives may save you. Obviously, escape ramps are best. Don't leave it until you are actually in trouble. Always be looking ahead and planning your strategy if the worst should happen. Question 52. You are following another vehicle. What is the minimum space you should maintain between the two vehicles? Answers: A. 5 feet. B. 4. C. Whatever distance you decide is safe. D. Enough space for a following vehicle to overtake and enter the space between you safely. The answer is D. Explanation: any vehicle overtaking you may need to return to your lane quickly once passed. Leave enough space for them. Question 53. If you are stopped by the police and refuse to submit to a breath test or other testing method for drugs or alcohol, what will happen? Answers: A. You will be treated as if you failed the test and lose your license. B. You will be followed for a mile to check you're safe to drive. C. 1. D. You will receive a summons in the mail. The answer is A. Explanation: the law of presumed consent means that if you refuse to be tested for an offense, it will be assumed that you have committed that offense and lose your license for 1 year for a first offense. Question 54. Going down a mountain, upon reaching your safe speed, you should then brake to? Answers: A. 5 miles per hour slower. B. 10 miles per hour slower. C. 20 miles per hour slower. D. 15 miles per hour slower. The answer is A. Explanation: the best technique for descending is to assess the slope and conditions and choose a safe speed. Once you reach this speed, gently brake until you are going 5 miles an hour slower and then let your speed build up again. When you reach your safe speed, brake again, and so forth. This is much less likely to overheat your brakes than trying to hold a set speed with the brakes permanently half on. Question 55. How should you check for overhanging hazards, trees, power lines, etc., before backing up? Answers: A. Get out of the vehicle and walk round to check for yourself. B. Look out of the windows. C. Look in your mirrors. D. 2. The answer is A. Explanation: backing up in a large vehicle is always dangerous. If you have to do it, make the most careful checks possible for hazards. This means walking all around the vehicle yourself. CDL test. Master your CDL exam in no time. Download now. Question 56. If you're driving in town, how far will your recommended 12 to 15 second planning ahead measure in distance? Answers: A. About 3 blocks. B. About 100 feet. C. 3. D. About a single block. The answer is D. Explanation: at normal urban speeds, it will take you about 12 to 15 seconds to drive between blocks. Question 57. If you travel at 55 miles per hour instead of 65 miles per hour, you could improve your fuel economy by as much as? Answers: A. By 20 gallons per year. B. 1. C. A mile per gallon. D. No real difference. The answer is C. Explanation: a mile per gallon may not sound like very much but could add up to huge savings over the course of a year. Additionally, by driving at 55 miles per hour, you will be safer and lessen your release of pollutants into the environment. Question 58. How long should the mud flaps on a truck and trailer be? Answers: A. Long enough to reach within 8 inches of the roadway. B. Long enough to reach within 4 inches of the roadway. C. 2. D. Long enough to reach within 6 inches of the roadway. The answer is A. Explanation: it's important for the safety of other road users that you do not sling too much mud or slush over them. Check all your mud flips are the correct size and that none are broken or missing. Question 59. Which of these commercial vehicles must come to a complete stop at a railroad crossing? Answers: A. School buses. B. Trucks carrying explosives. C. 4. D. Heavy equipment, e.g. steamrollers. The answer is undefined. Explanation: you must be aware of the regulations controlling your particular type of vehicle at railroad crossings. Failure to adhere to the regulations can result in serious penalties, a minimum of 60 days disqualification. Question 60. When performing a walk-around inspection, what must you do to the steering system? Answers: A. 4. B. Test what happens under braking conditions. C. Visually inspect the steering mechanism. D. Turn the steering wheel. The answer is undefined. Explanation: when performing a walk-around inspection, you must physically grab the steering mechanism to test for looseness and ensure there are no missing parts. Question 61. If you double your speed, how much does your stopping distance increase? Answers: A. By 50%. B. 4. C. 3 times. D. 4 times. The answer is D. Explanation: always be aware that if you increase your speed, your stopping distance increases exponentially. Question 62. Federal, state, and local regulations concerning cargo weight, securement, and cover vary widely. Which should you obey? Answers: A. Local regulations. B. Federal regulations. C. State regulations. D. 4. The answer is undefined. Explanation: you must follow all the regulations of all the jurisdictions through which you pass. If this involves making changes to your vehicle configuration or cargo loading, then you must do so. Question 63. After your first stop, how often must you stop to check your cargo is secure? Answers: A. 3. B. Every 3 hours 150 miles. C. Every 2 hours 100 miles. D. Every hour 50 miles. The answer is B. Explanation: 3 hours 150 miles is the maximum length of time and distance you should go without checking your cargo. If you suspect there is a problem, you should stop and sort it out before that. Question 64. If lug nuts have streaks of rust on them, what might that indicate? Answers: A. They're in danger of shearing. B. They might be frozen. C. It's not a problem. D. They might be loose. The answer is D. Explanation: streaks of rust may indicate looseness. Test them with a wrench, and if you observe looseness, the nuts must be tightened with a torque wrench to the correct settings. Question 65. What should you be aware of when passing a motorcycle? Answers: A. That your vehicle can throw a motorcycle off course. B. 3. C. That motorcyclists may swerve more suddenly than an automobile. D. That motorcyclists may be reckless. The answer is A. Explanation: be aware that the aerodynamic effect of a passing large vehicle can pull a motorcycle 2 or 3 feet towards it when passing. For this reason, you should always pass a motorcycle at least 6 feet to its left. Never attempt to share a lane with a motorcycle. Question 66. When descending a hill in the state of Texas, what is it unlawful for you to do? Answers: A. 3. B. To cross the dotted line on the highway. C. To coast down the hill. D. To sound your horn when you get to a curve. The answer is C. Explanation: it is unlawful to coast down any hill. This applies even if the clutch is disengaged. The engine should be in the right gear and working at all times. Question 67. How do you know when it's time to shift gear? Answers: A. When you reach a predetermined speed. B. By monitoring the vehicle speed and the engine speed. C. When the engine starts to shudder. D. 3. The answer is B. Explanation: vehicle speed is a good indicator of when to change gear, but things like headwind and gradient can affect it, so watch your engine speed as well. Question 68. How soon should oil pressure rise to a normal level after starting the engine? Answers: A. Within a mile's drive. B. 1. C. Within the first hour. D. Within seconds. The answer is D. Explanation: if your oil pressure doesn't rise to normal within 30 seconds of turning the key, you need to investigate. Question 69. If you are towing another vehicle, what is the maximum length of tow connection you are permitted? Answers: A. 25 feet. B. 10 feet. C. 40 feet. D. 2. The answer is undefined. Explanation: the maximum legally permitted towing connection length is 15 feet. If it is safe to make the tow shorter than this, then do so. The closer the towed vehicle is, the more control you will have over it. Question 70. If you have a cargo fire inside a box trailer, it's important that you Answers: A. Enlist the help of bystanders. B. Get an extinguisher on the fire as quickly as possible. C. Don't open the doors. D. 2. The answer is C. Explanation: Opening the doors of the trailer would allow more oxygen to get to the fire. This will not only make the fire worse, but could put you in serious danger. Even if it means losing your whole cargo, wait for expert help to arrive. CDL test. Master your CDL exam in no time. Download now. Question 71. If you have to stop on an undivided road, how should you set out your emergency warning triangles? Answers: A. All 3 in the rear. B. 2 in front and 1 further in front toward traffic in the opposite lane. C. All 3 in front. D. 4. The answer is undefined. Explanation: You need to warn traffic in both directions, but traffic coming up behind you and closest to your vehicle is the most likely to crash into you, so it needs more warning. Question 72. If a road has been recently repaved, what can that mean for you going through an underpass? Answers: A. The clearance height may be lower than it was previously. B. You should slow down to assess the new road surface. C. It will make no difference in any way. D. You can take it faster than you did before. The answer is A. Explanation: Repaving may raise the road surface considerably. Don't just assume that, because you've been through safely before, that you can still make the clearance. Question 73. If there is an obstacle in the road and you have a choice of directions around it, why should you choose to go right? Answers: A. No reason. B. 4. C. There may be a paved shoulder on the right-hand side. D. It will avoid driving into oncoming traffic. The answer is D. Explanation: Always attempt, even in an emergency, to avoid driving into a lane containing oncoming traffic. Question 74. If you're carrying hazardous materials, what should you do with the shipping paper when you're out of the cab, for example, eating in a diner? Answers: A. Keep it with you. B. Tuck it under your windshield wiper. C. Leave it in plain view on the driver's seat. D. Hide it carefully within your vehicle. The answer is C. Explanation: Always leave the shipping paper where it can be found by the emergency services if they can't find you. If they need to move your truck or deal with an emergency concerning it, they need to know what you're hauling. Question 75. If a railroad crossing has a steep approach exit, what should you be very aware of? Answers: A. You'll need to brake as you go down the other side. B. You could get hung up on the track. C. You'll need to change down gear as you approach. D. You're going to be slower getting across. The answer is B. Explanation: On particularly steep crossings, a trailer can easily get beached. This can be extremely dangerous. Look out for warning signs as you approach and take an alternative route if necessary, even if it means adding considerable distance to your journey. Question 76. A bridge formula restricts the axle weight for axles which? Answers: A. Are further apart than normal. B. Are closer together. C. Don't have dual tires. D. 3. The answer is B. Explanation: if axles are closer together, they exert a greater force on the road for the same weight than axles which are further apart. For this reason, the bridge formula may be applied, limiting the permissible weight carried. Question 77. If your load protrudes more than 4 feet beyond the rear of your vehicle, which of these do you need in Texas? Answers: A. Special permit. B. All of the above. C. A. Burning red light visible for 500 feet, night. D. A. Red flag at least 12 x 12 inches, day. The answer is B. Explanation: you must obtain a special permit from the Texas Department of Transportation Permit Office for any cargo overhanging the rear of your vehicle by more than 4 feet. Additionally, you must display a red flag at least 1 foot along each edge during the day and a red light visible for 500 feet at night. Question 78. If you are tested and found to have a blood alcohol concentration below 0.04% but above 0.0, what will happen? Answers: A. You will be taken out of service for 24 hours. B. You will be allowed to proceed. C. You will face a small fine. D. 3. The answer is A. Explanation: if you are between the violation limit and 0, you will be taken out of service for 24 hours. The best way of avoiding this is not to drink any alcohol within 24 hours of driving. Question 79. If you can see the rear or front end of the vehicle but can't see the driver, you must assume. Answers: A. 4. B. It's not going to move. C. There's no one in the vehicle. D. She or he can't see you. The answer is D. Explanation: if you can't see the driver, they can't see you. Don't assume this means they won't pull out. All it means is that they will pull out in front of you. Always slow down if all you can see is a hood or trunk protruding from a junction or alley. Question 80. Which of the following are you not allowed to transport on public highways in Texas in an open truck? Answers: A. Any of the above. B. Gravel. C. Wood chips. D. 4. The answer is A. Explanation: you may not transport any loose material capable of blowing or spilling from an open-top vehicle unless the top is covered with a firmly secured canvas, tarpaulin, or other covering. Question 81. How many different states' commercial driver's licenses can you hold simultaneously? Answers: A. 3. B. 1. C. 2. D. 1. The answer is D. Explanation: the Commercial Motor Vehicle Safety Act of 1986 was broadened specifically to stop drivers having licenses from more than one state. This was because some drivers were spreading violations across different licenses and escaping bans for misconduct. You may now only have a license from one state. If you wish to change states, you must surrender your previous license. Question 82. What are 2 of the most common causes of tire fires? Answers: A. Overinflation and duals that touch. B. Underinflation and duals that touch. C. Loose lug nuts and duals that touch. D. 1. The answer is B. Explanation: Underinflated tires and dual tires that touch cause these tires on your truck to overheat due to friction, which makes them the two most common causes of tire fires. Question 83. Driving on a highway, it is recommended that you monitor a quarter of a mile ahead. At highway speeds, this equates to answers: A. 5 to 10 seconds, B. 3, C. 30 to 50 seconds, D. 15 to 30 seconds. The answer is undefined. Explanation: a vehicle traveling at 60 miles per hour covers a mile a minute, so a quarter mile takes a quarter minute, i.e., 15 seconds. Question 84. If an accident victim is bleeding heavily, what should you do to help? Answers: A. Apply direct pressure to the wound. B. Don't interfere, wait for a doctor. C. 4. D. Attempt to bandage the wound. The answer is A. Explanation: if someone is experiencing serious blood loss, don't just wait for a doctor. Put direct pressure on the wound and keep it there. Bandaging will probably be useless, and a tourniquet can cut off blood flow and lead to problems like gangrene. Question 85. If you need to establish a warning system at a time when artificial light is not required, what should you use in place of your warning triangles, flares, reflectors, according to Texas law? Answers: A. 1. B. 2 red flags. C. A reflective jacket. D. Your emergency flashers. The answer is B. Explanation: you should always carry a pair of red flags alongside your chosen warning system. These should be deployed 100 feet either side of your stopped vehicle on a two-way roadway or 100 and 200 feet behind your vehicle on a divided highway. Ideally, a third reflective device will be 10 feet behind your vehicle. Question 86. How can you avoid temporary night blindness from other drivers' lights? Answers: A. 1. B. Turn on your own high beams to warn them to turn theirs down. C. There's no way to avoid it. D. Look at the sidelines instead. The answer is D. Explanation: if you look at another part of the road, you can still maintain a safe course without having to look directly into headlights. Question 87. How should you position your trailer to check the alignment of your mirrors? Answers: A. 1. B. Straight with your cab. C. Doesn't matter. D. Hanging to the right. The answer is B. Explanation: your mirrors have the biggest area of view when the trailer is straight, and that's the position in which you will most often need them. Question 88. If you've been drinking alcohol, the only way to prepare yourself for your next trip is? Answers: A. 1. B. Take some exercise to sweat it out. C. Drink a lot of coffee. D. Make yourself vomit. The answer is undefined. Explanation: time is the only certain way to make sure alcohol has left your system. If you do drink, make sure it is 24 hours before your next trip. Question 89. How many red warning triangle flares reflectors should your vehicle be carrying? Answers: A. 3. B. 4. C. 2. D. 2. The answer is A. Explanation: You should always have 3 warning triangles, flares, or reflectors. Question 90. If you must leave the road to avoid a collision, you should. Answers: A. Avoid braking. B. All of the above. C. Stay on the shoulder until fully stopped. D. Keep one set of wheels on the pavement. The answer is B. Explanation: when you leave the road, you need to take several steps before you can safely return to the road. Avoid braking until you reach a safe speed. Meanwhile, try to keep one set of your wheels on the pavement. Then, stay on the shoulder until stopped completely. CDL test. Master your CDL exam in no time. Download now. Question 91. For which of these circumstances should you not use your horn? Answers: A. To alert another driver to a hazard. B. 2. C. To alert another driver to your presence. D. To show somebody they have annoyed you. The answer is D. Explanation: your horn is a safety device, not a way of expressing your anger. Question 92. If you hit a thick fog bank, what's the best thing to do? Answers: A. Stop in a safe place and wait for it to pass. B. Speed up to get through it. C. 1. D. Proceed as normal with your fog lights on. The answer is A. Explanation: thick fog can be a killer and lights can actually make things worse, reflecting back in it. Don't risk driving in dangerous conditions. Question 93. What is the greatest weight allowed for any vehicle or combination of vehicles, plus load, in the state of Texas? Answers: A. 70,000 pounds. B. 4. C. 50,000 pounds. D. 60,000 pounds. The answer is undefined. Explanation: you must not exceed 80,000 pounds of weight. Remember, this is for your vehicle and cargo together, unless you have an oversized overweight permit from the Texas Department of Transportation Permit Office. Question 94. If you have a BC-type fire extinguisher, what is it suitable for dealing with? Answers: A. Wood and paper fires. B. Electrical fires and burning liquids. C. Tire fires. D. 1. The answer is B. Explanation: BC-type extinguishers are only suitable for electrical fires and burning liquids, i.e., for fires that you cannot use water to put out. You need an ABC-type extinguisher for wood, paper and cloth fires. Question 95. If backing with a tractor-trailer, turning the wheel left will do what? Answers: A. 2. B. Turn the cab left and the trailer left. C. Turn the cab right and the trailer left. D. Turn the cab left and the trailer right. The answer is D. Explanation: remember that a trailer will go the opposite way to the way a solid vehicle will. Once it's going in the desired direction, you need to turn the cab conventionally to match it up. Question 96. If you have a convex mirror, e.g., fisheye, spot, bug eye, what should you allow for? Answers: A. That objects may appear closer than they really are. B. That objects may appear to be smaller and farther away than they really are. C. 4. D. That objects may appear larger than they really are. The answer is B. Explanation. Convex mirrors are great for allowing you a wider field of view, but they will make objects appear smaller and farther away. You must account for this when making judgments of distance. Question 97. The minimum number of tie-downs on a load is? Answers: A. 1. B. 3. C. 2. D. 4. The answer is undefined. Explanation. You must have at least 2 tie-downs securing any load, regardless of the load size. Question 98. If starting from a standstill on a hill, what's the best way to get moving? Answers: A. Slide back until you're starting from a position horizontal across the slope. B. 3. C. Rev the engine with your foot on the brake pedal, then let the brake go. D. Press on the gas, even if you have to roll back a little. The answer is undefined. Explanation. Don't roll back when you start. You may hit someone behind you. If you have a manual transmission vehicle, partly engage the clutch before you take your right foot off the brake. Put on the parking brake whenever necessary to keep from rolling back. Release the parking brake only when you have applied enough engine power to keep from rolling back. Question 99. To gain a CDL in Texas, you must self-certify that? Answers: A. 4. B. You are not addicted to alcohol. C. All of the above. D. You are not an insulin-dependent diabetic. The answer is C. Explanation. Don't try to hide anything from the licensing authorities. If you are found to have done so, the penalties if you have an accident caused by something you tried to hide will be very severe. Question 100. If you are traveling at 55 miles per hour in a 30-foot vehicle, you should leave how many seconds of following distance? Answers: A. 3 seconds. B. 7 seconds. C. 4 seconds. D. 1. The answer is C. Explanation. The formula for following distance is 1 second per 10 feet of vehicle and then add an extra second if you are traveling over 40 miles per hour. So for a 30-foot vehicle going 55 miles per hour, you should leave a following distance of 4 seconds.